The Florida Panthers didn't just win back-to-back Stanley Cups, they bulldozed their way into NHL history. And at the center of it all wasn't just Aleksander Barkov's calm leadership or Sergei Bobrovsky's brilliance in net. It was Matthew Tkachuk, the loudest, boldest, most unrelenting force on the ice. From overtime winners to playing through a broken sternum, Tkachuk didn't just show up, he dragged Florida into battle and made them believe they could beat anyone. Loved by his teammates, hated by opponents, and impossible to ignore, he's become the ultimate mix of skill, grit, and swagger. So the question isn't whether he's good, it's whether he's one of the very best players in the world right now. How good is Matthew Tkachuk actually? Matthew Tkachuk has always been divisive. For some, he's everything they hate about hockey. The scrums after the whistle, the big hits that toe the line between legal and reckless, the endless chirping at opponents. He plays on the edge and sometimes over it. Coaches have to hold their breath every time he gets tangled up with a superstar because it can lead to a penalty, a suspension, or a war in the headlines. But peel back the reputation and look at the substance and a different story emerges. Beneath the antics is one of the smartest and most skilled players in the game today. He doesn't just score goals, he creates offense from chaos. He doesn't just throw hits, he tilts the ice emotionally and strategically. Opponents hate playing against him not only because he's annoying, but because he's effective. The problem is perception. Players like Connor McDavid dazzle with highlight reel speed. Austin Matthews breaks the internet with his shot. Cale Makar makes defense look like art. Tkachuk? He grinds. He battles in the corners, he screens goaltenders, he drags his line mates into the fight. Those things don't make flashy TikToks or viral clips, but they win games. And slowly but surely, the hockey world is realizing that what looks like chaos is actually brilliance in disguise. To understand Tkachuk, you have to go back to where it all started. Born in Scottsdale, Arizona, while his father Keith was playing for the Phoenix Coyotes, Matthew grew up around the NHL. Keith Tkachuk was one of the defining power forwards of the 1990s and early 2000s, a bruising, goal-scoring leader who combined grit with touch. Matthew, along with his brother Brady, inherited not only the bloodline but the mindset. But Matthew's development was shaped in a uniquely American way. He came through the USN TDP, the same program that produced Patrick Kane, Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, and countless others. Surrounded by elite talent, he learned early that grit alone wasn't enough. He had to pair it with vision, timing, and elite hands in tight spaces. By the time he starred for the London Knights in the OHL, playing alongside Mitch Marner and Christian Dvorak, scouts saw a rare combination: a top-line offensive brain inside the body and attitude of a wrecking ball. The Calgary Flames grabbed him 6th overall in the 2016 NHL draft, and almost immediately he became a lightning rod. His rookie season was filled with scrums, goals in dirty areas, and controversies that made him one of the most talked about young players in the league. The pest with skill identity was born, and it followed him throughout his early years in Calgary, but even then, his point totals and underlying numbers hinted at something more. The moment that changed everything came in the summer of 2022. Calgary had just lost Johnny Gaudreau to Columbus and was staring down the possibility of losing Matthew Tkachuk as well. Instead of waiting, general manager Brad Treliving pulled the trigger on one of the boldest trades of the salary cap era. Tkachuk was shipped to Florida in exchange for Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, and a first-round pick. On paper, many said Calgary won the deal. Huberdeau had just put up a 115-point season, and Weegar was a top 4 defenseman in his prime. But Florida saw something others didn't. They saw a player whose style was built for playoff hockey, someone who could be the emotional counterbalance to Barkov's quiet efficiency. From the moment he landed in Florida, Tkachuk embraced it. He arrived with swagger, declaring that he wanted to be the guy who turned the Panthers into a true contender. It wasn't empty talk. In his first season with the team, he scored 40 goals and racked up 109 points, numbers that not only silenced critics but announced that Florida's gamble had paid off in full. But the regular season was only the appetizer. The 2023 playoffs are where Tkachuk carved his name into stone. Florida entered as the 8th seed, heavy underdogs against the record-breaking Boston Bruins. Game after game, moment after moment, Tkachuk delivered. Overtime winners, clutch setups, relentless forechecking. He was the spark in a series that flipped the hockey world upside down. Against Toronto in the second round, he continued to pile on, agitating stars like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, while also scoring scoring key goals. By the time Florida reached the Stanley Cup final, Tkachuk had racked up 24 points in 20 games. His broken sternum in the final against Vegas became the stuff of legend. He could barely get out of bed, needed help putting on his gear, and yet still managed to score and make plays before he was finally forced out of the lineup. The image of him skating one last shift before collapsing into the bench is one that Panther fans will never forget, and that was just the beginning. In 2024, healthy again, he played an equally pivotal role as Florida stormed through the playoffs to win their first ever Stanley Cup. In 2025, he did it again, proving that the first run wasn't a fluke, but the start of a dynasty. Tkachuk wasn't just along for the ride, he was the conductor, dragging his team through the fire. When you look at Tkachuk's numbers, they confirm what the eye test already screams. This guy is elite. His goals and assists are impressive, but it's the advanced stats that truly capture his impact. In expected goals, he consistently ranks among the league's best, thanks to his ability to generate high-danger chances from the slot and net front area. His WAR and GAR metrics place him in the top tier of forwards, right alongside names like McDavid, Pasternak, and Kucherov. One of his most unique traits is how he creates offense from chaos. He doesn't need clean entries or perfectly executed passing plays. He thrives on broken sequences, pucks bouncing around the crease, defenders scrambling, goaltenders out of position. Where others see disorder, Tkachuk sees opportunity. It's a skill set that analytics can sometimes struggle to quantify, but it's exactly what makes him invaluable in the playoffs. Yes, his penalty minutes are high. Yes, he sometimes pushes the line, but the overall impact is undeniable. For every penalty he takes, he draws another. For every scrum he starts, he shifts momentum, he bends games to his will, and the numbers back it up. If Barkov is the quiet heartbeat of the Panthers, Tkachuk is the adrenaline shot. Inside the locker room, he brings energy, personality, and a confidence that borders on cockiness, but in the best way possible. Teammates talk about how his arrival instantly shifted the vibe of the team. Practices got more intense. Games had more emotion. The team took on his swagger. Anton Lundell has spoken about how watching Tkachuk battle in front of the net made him raise his own compete level. Sam Reinhart has credited Tkachuk for creating space and pressure that allowed him to hit career-high scoring marks. Even veterans like Aaron Ekblad admit that Tkachuk's energy was infectious. Most importantly, he and Barkov formed the perfect leadership duo. Barkov led with consistency and calm, Tkachuk with fire and fury. Together they built a culture where every player believed not only that they could win, but that they should win. When comparing Tkachuk to other modern wingers, the conversation gets fascinating. Nikita Kucherov is the master of playmaking. David Pasternak is a pure goal scorer. Jason Robertson is the next wave of scoring wingers. But Tkachuk, he's something different, something that doesn't quite fit the usual molds. He blends the offensive production of an elite winger with the edge and toughness of a throwback power forward. He scores 100 points while throwing 100 hits. He creates chances while living in the dirtiest, most punishing areas of the ice. No other player in the league combines those elements at his level, and that uniqueness makes him nearly impossible to compare directly. The advanced numbers confirm it too. In 5-on-5 scoring rates, he stacks up with the absolute best. In high danger scoring chance creation, he's consistently near the top of the league. And when you add his ability to draw penalties, flip momentum, and put opponents off their game, his impact actually exceeds most traditional superstars. And in the playoffs, the comparison gets even sharper. Many high-scoring wingers see their production dip when the ice tightens. Tkachuk's rises. He's a rare breed who thrives when the game gets uglier, when time and space vanish, when only the toughest can still execute. He already has more playoff overtime winners and clutch goals than players with twice the years under their belt. By the time his career is done, his postseason resume could rival the legends. At just 27 years old, he's only entering his prime. His window isn't shrinking, it's just opening wider. And in an NHL that has grown faster and more skilled every year, Tkachuk is proving that his mix of brains, skill, and raw willpower makes him not only belong with the Kucherovs and Pasternaks of the world, but sometimes even outshine them when it matters most. So what does the future hold for Matthew Tkachuk? He already has 2 Stanley Cups, multiple 100-point seasons, and a playoff legacy that most players could only dream of. If Florida continues their dynasty run, his Hall of Fame case will only grow stronger and fast. But beyond the trophies, his legacy may be about redefining what it means to be a superstar. In an era where skill and finesse dominate the highlight reels, Tkachuk has proven that there's still room for grit, toughness, and swagger, so long as it comes paired with elite production. He's shown the next generation of players that you can be both a pest and a point machine, both a bruiser and a brain, both hated by opponents and loved by teammates. Already you can see his influence. Young players coming up talk about playing like Tkachuk, going to the net, stirring the pot, changing the temperature of games with energy and attitude. Coaches are pointing to him as the example of what a modern power forward can be. Not just a grinder, but a game breaker. He has turned a style of play many thought was fading into a model for success in the 2020s. If the Panthers keep winning, history won't remember him as just an agitator or a pest. It will remember him as the player who turned a warm weather franchise into a dynasty, who proved that the mix of old school edge and modern skill wasn't just viable, it was championship hockey. And with several prime years ahead of him, his story is far from finished. If he adds another cup, if he piles on more 100-point seasons, if he continues to dominate in the postseason the way he already has, then Matthew Tkachuk won't just be known as one of the best of his era. He'll be remembered as a player who reshaped what it means to be truly great. So how good is Matthew Tkachuk actually? The answer is simple. He's one of the most valuable players in hockey today, not just because of his goals and assists, but because of the way he changes games, shifts series, and transforms teams. He is an elite point producer, a playoff assassin, a locker room catalyst, and a culture setter. He may not always get the universal love that McDavid or McKinnon do. He may never lead the league in highlight reel goals, and he may always carry that polarizing edge that splits fan bases in two. But ask the players who battle against him, the teammates who follow him, or the fans who watched Florida raise the cup twice with him at the center of it all, and the verdict is clear. Matthew Tkachuk isn't just really good. He is one of the defining players of this era, a superstar who thrives when the games mean the most, and a competitor who has already carved his name into playoff lore. He represents the perfect storm of skill and snarl, talent and toughness, production and presence. And the most important part, his prime is only beginning. The dynasty window in Florida is wide open, and if Tkachuk continues on this trajectory, we may be talking not just about one of the best players in the league right now, but about one of the most important wingers of the generation. So how good is Matthew Tkachuk actually? The answer has never been clearer. He's not just good, he's a force of nature, and his legacy is still only in motion.